Alrighty, welcome again. So my name is Andreas. I'm a 3D printing research scientist and at Autodesk and a longtime eNABLE member. This is Christian Primick. He's a product manager for the 123D application. So that's everything from Meshmixer to 123D Make, 123D Design. So a lot of really cool free design software and fabrication software. So Christian knows Meshmixer inside and out and has agreed to give us kind of an eNABLE specific demo of a lot of the kind of really useful features. So we're going to go through some of the mesh manipulation things that Meshmixer can do. So we're going to show you guys how to apply texture to a cyborg beast fingertip, some of the kind of refinement and decimation things that you can do to the mesh to increase or decrease the level of detail. And a couple of other mesh editing tricks. And then we're going to go into one of the really powerful techniques in Meshmixer, which is the ability to generate pretty sparse support structures and also to edit those support structures. So you can add support exactly where you need it or take it away where you don't need it. So a lot of the times when you kind of run the auto support algorithms in like Makerware or a Assessor for, say, the palm for the cyborg beast, you get a lot of support material in the that front knuckle block with all those holes, and so that can be a real pain to pull out. So Christian's going to walk us through how to generate support material, how to edit the support material, and also how to just draw in your own if you're trying to support something very specific. So without further ado, I'm going to plug Christian in, and we'll start up the screen share, and I'll let him.
All right. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you. So here is Meshmixer. Let me just double check my audio is coming through. Is that all right? Should be okay, huh? Make this full screen here. So here we have Meshmixer. You can get this at meshmixer.com or 123dapp.com/meshmixer. And this is typically what you see when you open Meshmixer. What I'm going to do is basically go through some of the basics of importing objects and navigation. And then, like Andreas said, I'll go through the some of the stuff specific to the projects you guys are working on with the finger and the palm models. So really, when you first launch Meshmixer, you get this screen, and you can import, which basically means you can import OBJ. Here, I'll just click it. You can see what we support: OBJ, PLY, STL, and AMF. So you can import these types of objects. Typically, you'll have an STL, which we'll look at today. Open will open the native Meshmixer file format, which is a .mix. So I'll come back to these later. These are some basic objects here to get started: a bunny, a sphere, a plane, and then you have your keyboard shortcuts, which is something you can become familiar with at some point. So here I'll just start with a bunny. I just click bunny, and now I have the bunny imported into my scene. And just some quick navigation tips. The default is the same as the 123D apps, the rest of the 123D apps. So right-click, orbit, and as you see, I'm orbiting. You see, it's kind of snapping to these view planes, which is like front, left, top, whatnot. And this is a good way to kind of understand how your object is sitting in there orthogonally. If you don't see that by default, you can press the space bar and turn on this snap. You just click it, there it's off, now it's back on. I think it's off by default, so that's why I wanted to point that out here. But yeah, so that's orbiting. Zooming by default is the scroll wheel, of course, and you see I'm just zooming right into wherever my focal point is set. Panning is scroll wheel, hold, and drag. So one thing that's really good to know. So you know your orbit, you know your zoom, you know your pan. One other very it's pretty critical for me, and I use it all the time, is the hotkey C, which centers your pivot point around wherever your mouse is on your object. So if I'm going to look at these ears, I press C, and now I'm centered on that ear. And when I orbit, when I zoom and orbit, I'm looking exactly at that point. Okay, so here I can come back out, move my mouse over the bunny's tail, see, zoom in, and I can orbit around that. Cool. So that's basic navigation. You have another method for navigating when you go to File, Preferences. And in here you can see we are by default 123D apps, but you can also do the Meshmixer default, which was a previous lifetime of Meshmixer. It's basically the Maya. If you're familiar with the Maya navigation, many people are coming from Maya, so that's what it started off with. Several other preferences in here that you can see. I'm not going to get into all of these in this session, but there is a there's some videos online called Meshmixer 101 you can also refer to if I don't cover anything, by the way. So that's basic navigation. You know, just to look at the layout here, you know, you can do do some things here in the menu. Here you can see the view center at cursor. It's the same thing that I did with using C with my cursor on the model. Several other things here as well. I can also import a bunny here as well. So whenever I import an object, I get this dialog, and if I have something open, I get this dialog. And basically what I can do is append or replace. So append would just import a second bunny, and replace would just clear the scene and put a brand new bunny in there, and that would be the only object. So here if I append, now I have two bunnies in here. You can look in your object browser to see exactly what's in your scene. This is very useful to have open. If you don't see it, you can enable it in the view menu here by clicking show object browser. Here I have it open so it says hide object browser. So this is a very important thing that you use when you start to get more objects in your scene. And it's kind of set up because Meshmixer, Meshmixer has an interesting way of working. So what I'm going to do is with this bunny, with this original bunny, I'm going to move it over to the side. And I can do that through the edit transform tool. See, so there I have my two objects, and I have to accept that. So that what I just did was move my object that I had selected here, and then accepted that movement. So basically now what I want to show you here is I'm going to change the default shader here. If I just go down to this shader, I'm going to drag this one right next to the globe onto the scene. You can have one shader for the whole scene, so you just have to drag that shader. Here's like a transparent one. Here's the one I like to work in. Okay. So what you'll notice now is if I click one bunny, the other one becomes kind of deselected, and you can see that in the object browser. And this is important to understand. This is a very kind of fundamental thing when you're working in Meshmixer, so that you know exactly what to expect, what object you're working on. For example, if I click this one and then hit, if I go to Edit Transform and I want to move it, by the way, the hotkey is T, which I use all the time. So instead of going to Edit Transform, I'll just press T, and then I can go like this. And I'm only moving that one object that's selected. Okay. So it's important kind of to understand that you'll have different options depending on what's selected. So here you saw the very basics of, okay, I have one object selected, it's going to operate on that one object. Now, if I multi-select and I use Shift to multi-select these objects, you'll see I have a whole different set of options here. Now I have Booleans available, for example, and I can go in and do a Boolean. And just to show that, why don't I go ahead and do a Boolean? So if I go in and I can just I'll go into my Meshmix panel here. Let me do this here. Select one, Meshmix, and what I want to do is just carve a sphere out of the back of this bunny. So this Meshmix panel has a big list of. Maybe we'll get into that in a later session, but basically I can drag, kind of like a parts bin, adding it to my scene. So I drag that on there. I can move this sphere around, and since it's an object, I can choose to have it be a new object, and I can increase the radius, and I can accept that. So now I have this separate object. You can see that there's this drop part here. So let's try and do the Boolean. So if I select this bunny, then shift select the sphere, I can do a Boolean difference and accept. I get a preview of it. Then when I accept it, it kind of finalizes that thing. Okay. So you saw I get certain options when I have one object selected. I get certain object options when I have two objects selected. Now there's one more selection kind of like I guess I should say it's kind of a sub-selection when you have faces selected. So I can go into my select tool, which is right here, and what you'll see here is I can now brush select these faces. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm not selecting the object now. I have an object selected and I entered selection mode, and now I'm selecting the faces. And you can hit W to toggle the wireframe on and off and just kind of see why that is like that, right? Now with faces selected, I have a whole different set of things I can do. I can, for one that I commonly use is go to Modify and Smooth Boundary. And watch what happens to these sort of faceted faces here. I can smooth out, with some of these parameters. I have some control here, and accept that. And now I have like updated geometry based on that selection, and I can go in and, again, with faces selected, I can do, let's just show an extrude, for example. Something like this, right? So I selected the faces, I smoothed the boundary, and then I extruded those faces. So it's the most common thing I find when I'm working with people who are new is that you have to understand: do you have one object selected? Do you have two objects selected? Or do you have an object's faces selected? And then you get different options based on that, and that's kind of what the workflow is when you kind of work with Meshmixer. So that's kind of just like Meshmixer 101. And again, there's Meshmixer 101 videos online. A nice thing that you'll notice, and I'm going to point this out actually, is that when I do these operations, these pieces, like for this Boolean, this is green now. This is blue inside here, and here I have purple on the inside of this extrude. This is to make the face selection easier rather than going in and selecting the brush. I can go into my select tool and just double click that, and it just selects the boundary of that thing, right? So if I wanted to make this like a smoother edge right here, I can control right click to expand that selection and then do like a smooth, and then I can do like as much smoothing on the scale as I want. And now I have there, I still have the face selected, and I can escape, and now I just have like a much smoother thing there. And you can go deeper and deeper into this, but that's basically a face group. So I can come in and again go into select, which is if you just tap S, you enter select mode. Decrease the size here, and I can just quickly select this thing, and let's just say I go like this, smooth the boundary again. Hotkey is B, and go and extrude it or do something like that. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So every time I do a little operation, I see the colorization, a new color based on that operation. And if you don't see that, it's because we also support per vertex painting. And when you hit the space bar, you can change between these two coloring methods. So you want the one with the green splotch on it, and this other one. If you're going to go in and paint, one of the lesser known features of Meshmixer, you can actually paint an object. So that's the basics there. Did we want to stop for any questions at this point, or should I move on into the finger?
Well, we don't have any questions posted yet, but someone just joined the call, so maybe we could see if maybe John P. has any questions yet.
Okay. Yeah, feel free to just interrupt me if you want. I can just.
And if you don't see that, it's because we also support curve protect painting. And when you hit the space bar, you can change between these two.
Oh, I hear it. I hear myself talking.
The one with the green splotch on it.
John, what did you say?
Oh, I heard like what I was saying earlier. Maybe it's
somebody.
I think you have the stream. The video stream is playing in the background.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I can just keep on then.
Yeah, it's fine.
I mean, just no worries. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is open up the finger, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to my import button, and I'm going to click import, and I don't remember if the option was on or off.
I think we do want to check it, yeah.
So there's this option when I'm importing. Often, different CAD packages will consider Z up, and some will consider Y up. So to sort of remedy this, 123D is Z up by default, like Maya is Y up, for example. So depending on your workflow, you may want to check this if your model's coming in sideways. And this will basically flip it on the import. Then when you go to export, it'll flip it again. So if you're going back to Maya or if you're going to 123D or whatever, it'll look the same orientation. So you really only need to check this once, and if it's looking right, you don't need to really worry about it again. So I'm going to replace the scene. In this case, I'm just going to basically annihilate these bunnies, and they're going to go away. I'm going to choose the finger, no bumps, open. Here we go. And so which way are we? Oh, there's the tip of the finger up here.
Yeah, tip of the finger. This is print orientation. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah, there's the print orientation with the flat bottom there. I can visualize this better with W. It's funny, your shaders look different than mine for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, it's fine with me. Anyways, if you look at this finger, there's not too much resolution here. It's probably coming from like a solid modeler or something like that did minimal tessellation. Meshmixer likes a lot of triangles and tessellation. So one thing we can do is, let's say we wanted to add some sort of texture, like let's just go with the default, like a bump or something like that on the tips of these fingers. What we can do is go into our sculpt tool, and I'm just going to show like what happens. Well, let's say I want to use this stencil for my sculpt. So basically, when I sculpt, I have a brush that will pull vertices out, and it'll sort of mask the black pixels and pull on the white pixels and use in between values for the gray. But if I were to do that on this finger, there's not enough pixels. It would just kind of be like a couple of things moving, and it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So what I can do is use my brush here. If I go to the volume brushes, just toggle this thing. I have a refine brush down here. All right. And what I can do is just start to paint more triangles on there. So if I zoom in, you can see that these are I'm just adding triangles to this. It's not changing the geometry. It's just like inserting vertices or triangles into the model. You can get some unexpected behavior when you start to go around corners and whatnot, but for this I could use this. There's also a remesh algorithm that I might use if I want to do the whole object. Kind of maintain. I have more settings there to maintain to adapt to the existing geometry there. But in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and what I can do is make sure I don't have reduce on, and whenever I am in a sculpt tool, I have this refinement option, and I basically am trying to add triangles. So I'm going to bump up refine and reduce, so to speak. I have a little smoothing going on, which is going to be fine, so I'll just leave that on. But if I increase the strength, I get more dense there. Also, if I reduce the size of my brush, it'll bump up the amount of triangles going in there. So that's just kind of something. It's kind of a neat brush where you can isolate where you need to get some more triangles. So there's that.
Okay. We do have a question. I don't know if this is the right time to ask it or not, so we'll just use.
Go ahead. Well, I'll just keep painting, and then I'll paint more triangles, and then somebody can ask a question. Go ahead.
Okay. So Christopher Hill says, I imported an STL file which was designed elsewhere to add support to it and make it stand up. It was exported and then sliced, and all the support was removed. Version 10.3.44. Has this bug been seen by you or fixed?
Well, in certain cases, you may want to. The support material goes away sometimes while you're editing the object. So if you are in the sort of 3D print screen of Meshmixer, and you create the support structure, but then if you move the object, it'll remove the support structure since the object's been moved in relation to the print plate, in which case it would need to be recalculated. So there's one case where it may have disappeared.
So are you saying that every time you move the object in Meshmixer, the support goes away?
Yeah, and I'll get to that. Actually, I'm planning on covering that.
All right, so
hold that thought, maybe. Yeah, hold that thought, and we can kind of look at how that's working.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll finish up with doing the support on another piece similar to this. So here, I use my refine brush. Now what I can do is I like to use, in the surfaces brush, I like to use this Draw Max. It kind of is like adding putty, using a putty knife, if you will, because you can limit the amount it's coming out. Let's see, what was I going to do? I'm going to use this bitmap on, well, let me just show you what the brush does first, okay? So I'm going to turn off the W now, just so you can see this. So with the Draw Max brush, I can kind of do stuff like this. And you can change like the fall off to get different effects, right?
Uh-huh.
So here I have like this fall off, and then there's different rounded fall offs. I'm going to keep it on full, and then I'm going to also use a stencil. I can import any black and white image or color image, actually. Black and white's kind of more predictable. So in this case, I can create these little bumps here. When I do this, now what I did, you noticed I had refine on, so what I want to do is I'm going to undo that and just turn off the refine, or enable refine, turn that off. And now I should get something a little more predictable there. So now I have these little like bumps that I'm adding as a little tactile, I don't know, might be useful to have on a finger. And you can come in here and depending on how big your brush size is, you can add, oh, I did a very big one. Hang on a sec.
So in theory, you could do some kind of pattern that would be similar to a fingerprint. You could. Yeah, definitely. It would be good for us to. I mean, people have done all kinds of different things to make it so that the fingers are able to grip things better. So this is good for more of that.
Definitely, and if I decrease the strength, I'm not going to get these tall ones as tall, right? And of course, a different stencil will give me different results.
Right.
So here I'm, doing something different. Yeah, in this case, you might have a black and white image of an actual fingerprint, and then just make the brush as big as that. Let's just do a bigger size, and then you can just kind of get a view similar to this, make the size larger. I think a quicker way to do the size, rather than having to come over here, because you want to see it previewed against the model. If you're in the Meshmixer navigation mode, it's easier, but I think it's Control right click. No, Shift right click.
Of course,
there's a way.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
What I'm thinking of is it'd be interesting for people with two hands to be able to print out something that would either be a glove or something, so that it would have these kind of spikes on it for rock climbing or something.
Yeah, I can see that being totally practical and useful. That's a good idea. Yeah, you know, this is just me playing around and showing you how the thing works. But you know, this might be like, you know, something you wear to the rave or something.
Yeah.
you might injure people with this thing. But yeah, I mean, making it useful, you could find ways that. Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
so that's just basically using a stencil with one of the sculpt brushes. This is kind of just scratching the surface at some of these things. So again, I use I toggle this over to surface, and I use this draw max, and then I added a stencil. You can import one from your hard drive using this. Change your fall off to full or not, and then you know, make your brush size the size you need it, and you can start to adjust that geometry. Again, you need to make sure you have the geometry there. So something that's also in here is, you noticed I used the refine brush. You can also do the refinement within the sculpting brush, but I just find it's a little slower. Like if I increase the refinement and reduce the reduce. Watch what happens when I come in here. Let me get a smaller size brush like this. If I come in here, like say where there's not that many triangles, it'll add triangles for me. So in that case, it doesn't look too bad right there. I just find that it can maybe hinder performance, but in this case, it's not too bad. So I use the refine brush to add all these triangles, but you can actually just enable this refinement down here in the parameters and bump up the refinement and reduce down the reduce and add that stuff on the fly. See, it's actually not working for me. There. Cool. All right. Well, what do you think? Move on. So how long are we going?
Probably another 15 minutes to cover supports.
All right. Let's go into supports then. So, if I go to import, I'm going to bring in. I have to leave this on since I think that's what we're doing. I'm going to replace to get rid of this finger, and I'm going to bring in the palm. Open. And now my scene's replaced with this object. And it's sort of oriented correctly for printing. I believe that's flat on the bottom. Now, you see it's pink. This is because the normals are inverted. So I can invert the normals of the faces first. That's probably the first thing I'll do. So if I go to select, I want to select all. And rather than paint selecting, because they're all reversed, I just hit Control A. All my faces get selected. There's probably another way of doing that. If I go into my select, I guess not. I guess it's just a hotkey you need to know. Control A, select all the faces, and then I'm going to go into Edit. Again, I get certain options when my faces are selected. So right now my face selection is kind of hidden because it's reversed. So now I have faces selected, and I can go to Edit, Reverse, Flip Normals. There we go. Okay. So now it kind of looks correct to me. Good. What's this? Z. Okay.
Super high poly area.
Oh, I see. Got it. Okay. So now we want to create some supports for this thing. Typically, what one might do is click this print button, and we can do the supports in that sort of print screen. But what I might recommend is do them in this Meshmixer scene here, because there's actually a couple extra options that that are very useful in this side of the tool, as opposed to if I were to click print. Here, I'll just show you what happens when I click print. Now I'm in this sort of print setup, and I can come down and do the add support structure here. but I'll go back to Meshmixer and do it in Meshmixer because it's kind of just as good and plus a few extra goodies in there. So I'm going to say yes, I'm back. And what I can do here is go into the analysis bucket and choose first before I do any sort of supports to my object, I just want to check the dimensions because it could be astronomically large and then sort of try and do supports which rely on a real world scale. So you want to just make sure the size of your part is correct, and this looks right? So we have 6 centimeters or so, as expected. Good. You can adjust it in here if you need to like scale it. You just enter a number here, and then hit enter. So I'm good there. I'm going to go into the analysis bucket and choose overhangs. This is where I'm going to be able to enter, where I'm going to be able to set up my support structures for this model. Okay, so here I have, I'm going to just choose, let's do replicator 3mm defaults. I have a list of defaults here. And we're going to add to these with more releases. Basically, this kind of sets up. Is everything looking correct? The shader doesn't look quite the same as on my computer, but basically, what I see on my computer is the overhang area is highlighted in red, and threshold. So as I increase this angle threshold, you'll see that the blue boundary or the redness, if you have red on your computer, that it will increase. So I'll go back to 35. Okay. Some of these other things, I won't get into every little detail here, but I might just show this. Let me go back to the defaults, 3mm defaults, and just see what happens. We'll take a look at that. So what I do to get the supports is just click Generate Support, and it does its calculation of knowing where that overhang is and where to put things. It does some basic tree structure, as you'll see here shortly. And there's my support that is generated. And you can see it's filling in where it considers the overhang to be, right? So in this case, I get a lot of little stuff here that I might not want. It's really, in some cases, this could be a hassle, right, for printing. I mean, maybe this gets in the way. I don't need it. Something you might want to do, like in this case, I don't need these guys, these supports up here in front, so I can Control-click on them to delete them. Okay. Control-clicking gets rid of these struts, these things that you see. Another thing you might want to do if it's just too much to like go through and weed out is do it manually, which in this case I probably could get away with much less support. And I can go and tweak some of these sliders and just keep generating support and seeing what I get. And that can be useful. But in this case, I'm just going to try manually do it. So I can remove support here, which gets rid of the support that it proposed. And I can use the overhang reference to go in and put my own struts, my own basically supports. So let's just focus on this area up here in the upper dome. If I just left-click anywhere there, it adds a strut there. Okay, and you can see it's kind of angling out. If I don't want that to happen, this max angle setting will adjust that. So let's say just for seeing it, bump it up to 70, and I'll Control-click on this one because I don't like it. And then I'll click there again, and now it's at much less of an angle. Okay, let's say I still don't want that, and I want it specifically in a spot. Let's Control-click both of these guys. I can just simply click and drag down to the grid, and it'll add it right there.
Very cool.
So now I'm just manually adding supports, right? And it's like, okay, I would just want that. I'm not going to fiddle with 50 sliders to get this, right? So we do have the ability to do manual support. And you can come in here. Well, let me get a better angle on that. port, you can just keep clicking in an area and it'll search for supports. You saw some of that branching that I had. You know, if you want, you can click on those branches and it'll add struts here and there. So it's good to know, just like in general, left clicking will add. You can click on the support and it'll add this like little brace here. Clicking on the model, clicking on the support will add more of those things. You can also, yeah, like I said, drag to a specific area that you want that support to be. You can also like do this. Okay, well I want to branch this guy up from there, right? So that's kind of an interesting take on this. This is much more like, this is going to save more time, and you know, like looking at it, you're like, this is a good print, because really the only overhang that I would be worried about is like up here, where it starts, the angle starts to get really sort of parallel to the print bed. Here, they'll probably survive these little holes right here, and some of this stuff here, like that would print, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in this case, I'd probably be more comfortable. I could add a few more, you know, maybe back here, but I'm pretty sure that it would get through those. If you click and drag and it doesn't add it, it's because it's either like self-intersecting. Yeah, it's because it would self-intersect. You can just drag it out here. It might give you more problems. If you want to override it, you can, again, when I'm click drag, it doesn't add it. I can override it by just pressing Shift, and then it'll add it. For whatever reason, it didn't want to add it, like usually because it thinks it's intersecting itself or something like that. So that's that. So that's just good stuff to know. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. John has a question, and I have a question.
Okay. Shoot.
John?
Let's see here. Does the size of the STL change when you import it? In other words, if you don't change it, you print right in Cura or something, and you hit print, it has a certain size range. When you import a STL file, does the size change? You have to make sure you change the size back to a ratio before you export it?
It should not. It should not. STLs are unitless. So depending on where you're coming from, for example, Maya is centimeters. So if it writes out an STL, it's going to be in centimeters, but Meshmixer will read it as millimeters. So in that case, you might need to scale it by 10. It's just kind of dependent on wherever you're coming from. You typically, if you're coming from like a solid model, like let's say Fusion 360, I think it's all in millimeters when you go to export when you export STL, so it'll come in as expected. But coming from other places, it's definitely something you want to check. I mean, just maybe just one time coming from that application, export a 1x1, cube, and go into Meshmixer, and you can check it in the analysis bucket. I'm not quite done here, so I don't want to get out of it. But yeah, short answer is STLs are unitless. Meshmixer doesn't resize them, but it's assuming they are in millimeters.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, millimeters.
Okay, and my question was, can you just tell us what the system requirements are for Meshmixer?
Yeah, actually, you can see that on the website. Maybe it's worth bringing up the website. So let's do a new one. This one.
Yeah, feel free to. Yeah, that just open up a new tab on any of these guys. Yeah.
Okay. So if I go to 123dapp.com/Meshmixer, I have all these system requirements here somewhere in here. So we're available for Windows 32 or 64, and also the Mac operating system. Where are the system requirements? That's a good question. Well, yeah.
You might tell the people that are in charge of the website that it's not readily available.
Yeah, not readily available. Yes, I will definitely need to add that. But if you have a Windows, we support Windows and Mac, and if you have a relatively new system, you should be able to run it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, with older, usually the problems arrive when we have somebody with an old graphics card or drivers that are haven't been updated in a couple of years. That's usually updating graphics card. A graphics card will fix the problems.
Okay, and
We have a pretty good. We also have a pretty good frequently asked question page for troubleshooting problematic installs.
cool.
That's. I'll just show you that website. You can find it through there. But if you go to meshmixer.com.
Okay. And this is just a request.
Yeah, yeah.
This is just a request for you guys to ask the people in charge of all these softwares. Is there basically there's people out there that would really like to be able to use this stuff on Linux, and then as Chromebooks get more popular, Chrome OS would be a good thing to have some of the free softwares on as well.
Linux and Chrome OS. Yeah.
OS.
No, we hear that. Chrome OS. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that's not the first time I've heard that.
Well, okay.
But,
so great. So
Thanks for the feedback.
So I voted 2 now.
Ah, you have one as well.
No,
Okay.
I just said that I have voted for that as well.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, we'll consider that. It's possible. I think we actually may see the Linux port sooner than later.
Okay, cool.
I don't know. I can let you in on a little secret. Our CTO actually ported Meshmixer to Linux already in his spare time.
Wow.
But we're not. It obviously needs some looking after. But it's pretty funny that he did that all by himself. So we may make that available in the sandbox page soon.
Okay. Well, yeah. Now about 1,800 people know about it. So.
Perfect. Why not? That's good. Yeah. Well, now that they know about it, it'll happen. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Cool. Well, I'm glad.
Should we? Yeah. Is there anything we need to go further in on this? I mean, I can get into some of this advanced stuff, but I think for digestible kind of session, and for solving most people's support issues, this is kind of like a good place to start. The one final thing, and kind of getting back to the initial question, was okay, when I moved my object, my support didn't get exported, or somehow my support didn't get exported. In this case, what I want to do is convert to solid, and this is kind of new within the last release or two. This convert to solid bit has improved print success considerably, because if you think about it, when it does the toolpathing, it has to do all these little sharp corners and things like that. The convert to solid will. Is it going to do it? Oh. Okay, I'm in some strange state. But
My install might be a little funny.
let me go back. Generate support. Here, I'll just reduce this and do some more. Generate support. Might be that I have to do it linearly.
I think we might have to remove and then regenerate.
Let's remove. All right, stand by. If I go in here, let's just do a quick move of this thing. So here, analysis, overhangs, remove support, generate support. So let's just say this is the support I wanted. Oh, there's nothing there. Let's do the 3mm defaults. And we'll just pretend like generate. Okay, pruning, optimizing. And then I'll just end on this little point here to finish off this thing. Again, I can come in here and get rid of stuff if I need to. Just control clicking on stuff, right? I can do that on the other side as well. But the operation here was convert to solid, and here I can just say new object. And what it does is it does this make solid operation, which we introduced to Meshmixer a couple of releases ago, which basically will, it's kind of like a voxelization of all of the support there, and where some support runs into each other, it kind of becomes more one object. You can kind of see how it gets like more like a clouded rather than individual cylinders. It has to draw out. It's more supporting. The cylinders are more supporting of each other, and so that's a pretty critical step that we're finding, and we're going to make that kind of the default going forward. And there, you have your object, and you have your support. They're separate objects. You can export these. If you want to export them from here, you make sure you have them both selected, because it'll export the selection. You know, and again, you can do this in this sort of print screen as well, but we don't have the make solid option in the print screen, so it's nice to do it in the Meshmixer screen. So that's it from me. And you know, if there's any more questions,
okay.
Shoot.
What is voxelization?
Matching cubes to you know, fill up an object and create a new solid based on an existing surface. So that's kind of a short answer. There's probably a much more technical, complicated answer to that. But we introduced it. I mean, I'll show you this. If I import a bunny, and I'll just replace it. Okay, so here I have a bunny with a big hole in the bottom. And let's go ahead and insert, like, you know, this guy. So I have this big torus here. I'll just move it into place. Now, by the way, I can turn off the snapping here for this transform tool by clicking this S, and then I'm not kind of constrained to anything. But if I accept that transform, now I have these two objects. Let's say I wanted to 3D print this, right? That's kind of like a pencil topper. Well, I don't know what the heck it is. I have mesh issues. If I look on the inside of it, I have this whole sort of thing going through it. So I have self-intersections here, and I have a big opening here. So what I would do is a make solid in this situation. A lot of folks who are 3D printing using Meshmixer for 3D printing are loving this. Select this torus, select the bunny, do a combine. I have to combine them before I do the make solid. So I just combine them. Now they're one object. You can see that in the objects browser, wherever that may be. Show objects browser. Sometimes I have to like resize it because it's hidden somewhere.
Maybe check hide behind the bar here. Don't know.
Where is my object browser? Well, let's skip it. So if I have my object browser, you see that this is just one object. Now I still have, let's see, I still have sort of this self-intersection going on the inside. So if let me just get a better view of that. Go down inside of here. You can see there's that going on. But now, if I go to make solid, I can quickly eliminate this problem. Here I have a fast and, you know, different sort of options here. I can do much more accurate if I need to change some of this stuff. There's other settings in here for doing offsets and whatnot. Click update, and now I have a make solid version of this bunny. And if I look on the inside, I don't have that self-intersection happening anymore, right? So that's kind of like make solid does this analysis of your objects and can create one sort of sound 3D printable watertight 3D model for you. And that's what it's doing on those supports, where the supports may or may not be intersecting and this and that. You can do the make solid, and it makes them much more sturdy when they're printed. Cool. So that's it for me.
Okay, we had a comment from Julie Fowler. Thank you so much, and it was very informative.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. Yeah, if you one thing you can notice is if you go, there's a feedback menu. You don't have to show it, but yeah.
Switch back.
I get these emails. If you go to feedback, you can like send feedback or report a bug, or this is a good way to communicate with me specifically and some of the developers. So if you need some help, or you'd rather see something, or you find a bug, let us know, and we'll try and fix it in the next release.
Yeah, so just like we talked about yesterday, Andreas, can you do a post in the community that has this type of contact information for people?
Oh, I don't know if Andreas can hear you.
Here,
Oh,
let's make
yeah.
it, well,
Hang on. Yeah.
Well, I'll talk about it after.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying for Andreas, if you could make a post like you were going to do for yesterday's Fusion 360. Can you make a post where it has the information to contact people for feedback and whatnot?
Great, yeah, can do.
Okay, thank you.
Totally. All right, well, I think we can go ahead and call it a wrap for today. And again, feel free to reach out to me in the community, or again, Christian is easily reachable through the feedback button in Meshmixer, so direct to the source. Anyway, until next time, we'll probably